Another really useful performance feature on all of Rekordbox controllers is the beat jump controls, which are located here on this DDJ800 and in similar locations on the other Rekordbox controllers. So moving from hot cue, we jump across to beat jump, and you'll notice that the pads light up in a faint red and yellow colour. On the screen, if you just direct your attention to the Rekordbox screen, you can see that we have different values. So we have these red arrows left and right and the value of number 1 in between. What this means is if we press these two buttons, we can jump forwards or backwards by 1 beat at a time. So let's have a look. You see the waveform is jumping forwards and backwards 1 beat at a time. And we can jump through the track in this way. Let's go back to the start. The next two pads along with the orange arrows and the 2 in between mean we can jump forwards and backwards 2 beats at a time. This can be done, as you can see, while the track is paused or even while the track's playing and it just jumps 2 beats at a time. The bottom one's 4 beats here and here, and then 8 beats. Now, beat jump can be really useful when it comes to setting up your hot cues, especially when you're trying to get the different phrases of the music and figure out where the different phrases in the music are. But what I'd recommend doing, instead of just using the 8 beats, which is the largest value here, show even more values. We can use these 2 buttons, which are parameter buttons. You may have them on your controller as page buttons here, and we can show up more or less. Or you can just use your mouse if you don't have the page buttons to show up the different values. If you show up different values, go off that mode and back on, it still stays the same. So it remembers the state it was last in. Now what I want to do is have available 64, 32, 16 and 8 beats. So ultimately, if we take 8, times it by 2, we get 16. That's 16 beats. Times it by 2 again, we get 32 beats. Times it by 2 again, we get 64. So what we want to do is, I would usually jump in 32 beat increments. This is an 8-bar phrase, so we can jump 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, and jump through the track in 8-bar segments. Now, this is really useful, like I said, when setting up hot cues, because we might want to jump quickly and set up our hot cues. So I could jump 32 beats, 1, so that's 8 bars. Another 8 bars is 16 bars. You can see on the waveform that the track changes. I could quickly listen. I might want to set a hot cue on that bass line there. Pause it again, go back to beat jump, 1. And you can see that I only pressed it once because that is just an 8-bar phrase. So the intro is made up of 3 lots of 8 bars. My bad, sorry, 4 lots, 1, 2. So that's 16 bars, and another 1, 2, another 16 bars. I could set a hot cue there on the build up, go back to beat jump, 1, 2, and you can see we're at the drop, 1, 2, we're part way through. Now this is where it might throw it out, because you'll see here, we have this small break before it kicks back in. And this is where the producer might have just had a little bridge in between that goes, okay, we'll just put 4 bars of something to vary up the music and then get back into the longer structure, such as 8 bars or 16 bars. So this is where it doesn't necessarily work for the whole track. We can't just beat jump, beat jump, beat jump, beat jump. And if I keep going, it might not exactly work out now, because that isn't the start of the breakdown. You see it's not quite mapped out, but this is where you can definitely get creative with setting up your hot cues. It's really practical. What I could do is jump backwards instead. I could go to a drop and think I want to get 16 bars before a drop, so I could just do back 64 beats, and then I could set a hot cue there, and I know that that is exactly 64 beats before that drop. And then I could do the same thing on the opposite side. I could go here and go to the drop and go back 64. So let me just make sure that I have 64 visible. There we go. Jump back, set up a hot cue. Now, very easily, I can make sure that these 2 drops line up. And you could even label these 64 before or 16 bars, for example. Do 16 bar lead, and 16 bar lead, and you know that they could both work together. You could swap them over. drop into the next side. So there's loads of ways that we can get creative by using beat jump to practically set up hot cues. It is a quick way to do it, is to just skip through the track and set up some hot cues. Do remember though to always listen and just double check that we're setting them up in the right point and we're not setting them up, say where the example earlier where we had an extra 4 bars, we're setting them up in the wrong place because of those extra bars that are sort of scattered throughout the track.